Hello, everyone. Jeffrey Tefertiller back with another Service Management Leadership Podcast. We're joined by Rhonda Downing from Cartronics, Director of Service Management. How are you, Rhonda?
I am great. How are you, Jeffrey?
Better than I deserve most days. And,
Awesome.
you know, it's one of those things that I have much to be thankful for, no matter how much I dwell on the things I don't. And so I have much to be thankful for. So I noticed in your profile, we're going to dive straight in, head first.
Okay.
I noticed on your LinkedIn profile that you got the managing professional transition for ITil 4. From ITil 3, B3 expert like I am, you've taken that next step, which I've been remiss about. How was that class, that test, all that stuff? How was it?
It was pretty good. Of course, having gone through all of the V3 and taking all those exams and just being able to get to the end, quote unquote, of V3 and become an expert, that one felt really good. And then the managing professional, it builds a lot on what we already know. So I found it a lot easier actually than the V4 foundation exam. I went ahead and did the foundation exam because I thought, okay, I want to make sure I understand what really is different. And I found the foundation exam much more difficult than the managing transition. So
we're all nerds. We all eat that up. I said this on an earlier podcast that one of my team took this and sent me the booklet or whatever, the study guide, and that they were studying. I read it on an airplane and then see if I could pass the study, the exam, just because we're all nerds in this. And
absolutely. You get hooked on it, don't you?
I want to learn more. I want to, I think I use this analogy a lot of it's like a carpenter and their tools. And so how do we use these tools the best for our business customers to create better outcomes, to meet their needs better, because their needs are changing, their business problems are changing. How do we use these tools better? How do we do things better? So how did you get started on your ITIL journey?
Oh gosh, I kind of fell into it, I think. I started my career early doing pulp, paper, and chemicals training. And I kept getting pulled into a lot of discussions with engineers about processes. And they would say, we have to make this process better. We can't go live with this process in this manner because it's just not efficient enough, or it's going to cost us so much additional funds to run it. And so I was like, this is pretty cool. I like this area of process. And so I had a lot of processes because I wasn't business oriented. I didn't understand what these processes were called. And then I stumbled upon the ITIL V2 by chance one day. And it was just like meeting my best friend in the world. I was like, oh my gosh, this is telling me what I've been seeking for. So been hooked on it, I guess, ever since. But definitely, as it's evolved and it's matured and it's changed, it's been just a great exploration because as you refer, I tell people I'm constantly looking to put new tools in my tool belt, right? Because that's how I look at it. And with each evolution of the ITIL versioning, we get a new flavor. We get the changes that allow us to then meld those new flavors in with some of the other methodologies and frameworks that exist, because I know in my career, I've never done just ITIL. It's never just ITIL. And actually, I always refer to it as service management because service management transcends just IT. And everybody uses service management, business and IT, even in information security. No matter which area you're in, you're doing service management. So for me, that was very exciting to find that V2 version, even though I look back at it now and I'm like, gosh, how did I make sense of that? How did I use that to get where I am today? But it really was just very eye-opening for me to be able to go, that's what I need to call this. This is what I've been looking for. So very exciting.
I can just see it in a commercial now, soft piano music, you like coming, meeting across the screen. Where have you been all my life?
Yes.
So what has service management, how's that changed the trajectory of your career? You know, because you're going down this and you say,
Mhm.
I found where I'm supposed to be. How has that changed the trajectory?
Other than the fact that I spent about 6 of my early years in doing highly technical training, I've been in service management since then. Service management is my North Star, if you will. It tells me where I need to go. I'm constantly looking to improve my knowledge, increase my knowledge, improve my capabilities, improve what I can do. So yes, I am one of those people, I'm never satisfied. There's always a next step somewhere. I have to be better at. So, and service management gives me that. It tells me when I get off course, and it tells me when I'm on course, and it introduces new courses to me. And that's very exciting. You know, I think about young people today who are looking for an area of and particularly technology where they might want to go, but maybe they don't want to become a highly technical skilled person. And this is just one of those areas that you can still have your technical skills, but it allows you to offer so much more as a service of yourself to an organization by having these skills and this knowledge. And just so to me, service management has always been my North Star. It tells me where to go and how. It doesn't necessarily tell me how to get there sometimes, but it's always out there somewhere. Somewhere I can find, oh, this is where I should go next, or maybe this is the path that I want to try and go down. Sometimes it's not the path. Sometimes I go, whoa, I'm way off course here. I've got to reset and adjust. And my husband has had to put up with me going, sorry, honey, I know I'm in this job now, but it's just not right for me. It's not the right fit. I can't contribute to this organization the way I want to. So I got to backtrack sometimes, but knowing that I have a framework, if you will, I have a lot of people that are peers in this framework with me that I can fall back to say, hey, I need your help. Can we talk about this? Can you help me take a look at this? That's been probably the most rewarding piece of my service management journey, is that I've developed probably over the past 30 years here in Texas and in the DFW area, a lot of really good, strong, close relationships with other peers that are doing the same thing I'm doing. So
I will say, not to jump the shark to the closing thoughts, but that's where I'm going to center him on is, hey, I know you're in a different industry, different organization, but your problems are similar to other people's. You know,
absolutely.
You're not on an island. Yes, your business customers may look different. They may have different requests. Some of them may be crazy requests, but you're not on as big of island as some days and your down days you really think you are. And so on Cardtronics, it's a ATM provider, and we'll go more into that here in a minute. But what does ITil, and let's call it service management, mean at Cardtronics?
Well, to me, it's not so much about Cartronics as an ATM provider, but just financial institutions in general. Yes, we provide ATM services. We provide managed services for our customers. We also own and operate our own ATMs, and we service our own ATMs, which makes us, I believe, the world's largest ATM provider, which is kind of awesome. So, but it's really about making sure that we have good processes in place so that if we see that if we start to feel a deficit in an area, that we can quickly assemble the right people and go, hey, what's going on with this? Where do we have an issue? And then being able to brainstorm and figure out, hey, well, let's try this, or maybe we need to try that. And being able to quickly assess, is what we want to try working or not? And we're not afraid of failure. That's, a lot of organizations, you can't fail, the old too big to fail type mantra. I don't think Cartronics will ever fail. I just don't think it's in our DNA. But we do have failures, and we take them. We try to learn from them. We try to improve. So as long as we're doing that, then we're going to continue to be the best. So I think we're the best.
Well, especially because if you can measure it, and even if you have short-term, let's stub our toe, but we learn from it, and we better tomorrow than we were today, it's all good. Yeah. And so I did a little research. Cartronics has 285,000 ATMs across the world. That's a big number. And so, I mean, you know, like my service management brain just goes bonkers because that business model looks different. And so you mentioned it's bigger, it's also including the financial services, you know, the financial institutions. But how is it different from, let's say, Cardtronics in the financial world than a hospital or somewhere else that has, you know, still using the same processes, same tool set, practices for you, ITil 4 people, use the same tool sets, but how does it look different for you all than others in other industries?
To me, it's really about how we apply our own nuances, if you will, to processes, procedures, practices, as ITil 4 calls it. There, you know, we still have processes, we have practices, and to me, a lot of that is how we bring it to the table, how we perceive, hey, this is how this should work. This is how we can apply it so that we give that value add back to our customers. We are not in the situation of saving lives, thank goodness. Sometimes we could save lives. I'm guessing there's situations where you might say an ATM saved my life if you need cash quickly and that's the only way to get it. But knowing that we're not in a situation where we can build different systems and put processes, procedures, practices in place that support what we need, what we feel is most important, and making sure that our consumers and our customers have full-time access to our ATM services when they need it, when they want it, is probably the most important thing for us. Is our customers and consumers out there in the world are key to obviously everything we do. So we try to make sure that we stay on top of what are our customers' needs and what are they perceiving as the value adds that are most important to them. So we make sure that we're bringing in those things back into our organization, we're processing them, we're applying strategic services to those things, those needs, if you will, those value adds, and making sure that we're providing that back to the customers. From a consumer standpoint, you know, it's a little more interesting because if you think of it, a consumer consumes our service, which is using the ATM. But they, you know, the mantra or the ITil version of, hey, it's something that a customer wants the perceived value for, but something they necessarily don't want to have to pay for, right? They don't want to have to pay for the maintenance of that ATM. They don't want to have to pay for the signage on the ATM and things like that. So there is definitely a distinction between a customer and a consumer in our industry, and just knowing the differences and what value adds they're looking for, because they are different, is what we strive for all the time. We constantly pay attention to that because it's really, really important to our industry.
I was thinking, asset management, 285 of these ATMs, these 285,000 of these doohickeys around the world. You know, even the CMDB, these have to be connected to something. We have to know how we're going to support them. Incident management or business continuity or change management. You know, there's a story this week about a well-known accounting and consultancy organization that had a bad change, unauthorized change, and deleted information from their team's environment. And that was a big deal. But I was thinking for you all, it'd be a huge deal, right?
Absolutely.
If some change wiped out the ability for people to get their money, that's a huge deal. And so I was just thinking, you know, even on the business continuity piece, right? You have you have a tornado, you have a flood, you have some disaster. How do we keep this operational? Because these people may not have access to a bank or something else. There's a lot of service management thought process that goes into what we think of as an ATM. Is we put in a card, put in a PIN, give us money. You know what I mean? Like there's the security aspect. There's so much to that. Am I thinking correctly on all this?
Oh, you are. You know, a few years ago we had Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Harvey. Katrina was a big deal in the South. Harvey was huge. You know, it really just did so much devastation to Houston. And we do have a facility in Houston that we have a lot of ATMs down there. So it really took a toll, but it was amazing to see our team members pull together and make sure that, hey, let's go check this ATM, make sure it's working, because we knew people in those areas that were in the devastation. And we'll do the same thing with Hurricane Laura as it's coming up the mid-United States. We'll make sure that the ATMs that we have in those places and that we service, we manage for our customers, we'll make sure that they are accessible for consumers, because when you need it, especially when it's something like a hurricane, or you've got to leave your home and you have that need, we don't want people to feel like, oh my gosh, now I'm panicking because I can't get to my cash. I can't get to what I have in a bank somewhere. So, you know, that part of it, always makes us feel really good to know that we're providing a value that people need that becomes very important in their lives.
So the one that gets me, that popped up on our conversations, were service level management. 24/7 by 365. I want to be able to walk up, put my card in, my pen, and get cash. No matter where I am in the world, if I'm near one of your 285,000, I want to have that. So that is the customer's expectation for that service, right? I mean, there's no outage. You can't have an outage, because that customer now may have assigned loyalty to the next one or whatever. So how does service level management, how's that, those expectations? I think of service levels and expectations, think of those kind of similar. How are those expectations from your customer? They want that immediacy, you know, like a remote control. How's that different than other industries?
I personally don't feel that it is all that different, but when you think about it from, you have to understand, what's that end consumer looking for? What's their spend patterns? When do they go to an ATM, or when do they want to buy something? Do they do it online, or are they going to go get cash out of a machine? There's still a tremendous number of people in the United States alone that don't have access to credit. They do everything cash transactions. I was surprised a few years back. I went to visit my parents, and my dad went to go to a particular little restaurant there in the country where they live. Well, they're in the United States, but they're in the South, so it's a totally different country there. So we went, and at the end of the meal, he said, "Oh, by the way, I know you're gonna want to pay for this. I hope you brought enough cash, because this is a cash-only restaurant." And I'm like, "Dad, it would have been nice if you told me that to start with." So I had to go get in the car, use my locator search program that Cartronics has, to go locate an ATM that was close enough I could go get cash to come back and pay for the meal. In the meantime, my parents got to sit there and chat up with the restaurant owner and their family, because they all know each other. And I told her, I said, "Don't do that to me again. Make sure I know if I need to have that much cash," you know. So, and then I had a situation where I was in another country. I have traveled quite extensively outside the U.S., and I got up on a Saturday morning, and the entire country, all their telecommunications was down. And it was in the country of Australia. And I'm going, okay, this is interesting. No cell phone. Hey, I don't have to work today. Awesome. I'm going to go explore. And so, you know, I was able to get the Uber to come to the hotel, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, we can't come pick you up unless you have cash, because we can't process a credit transaction. We can't do debit. You have to pay cash. And I'm like, oh yeah, I got you covered. So basically I had this lady took me all around Melbourne, Australia all day. We spent the day together. It was awesome because she didn't have any other customers because nobody else had cash. And I'm like, how can you live in a society without having cash? And so, you know, we talked and I told her what I did for a living and where I worked. And she's like, you know, that would have been a great idea to hit the ATM every once in a while and have some cash on hand just for such emergencies. And I'm like, yeah, you just can't function in this world on credit alone. It's just not possible. So for me, understanding the consumer spend patterns, when do they want to have access to their funds? How do they want to have access to their funds? When do they typically spend? So those things come into play, and to do any kind of service level management, you have to know those factors. You have to be able to really look, and because not only does Cartronics have ATMs, but there are other ATM vendors out there. There are still a lot of financial institutions that have their own ATMs, but we want them to come to our ATM. So we want to make sure that we're branding them properly, that we give them a pleasant environment as much as we can control. To go to that ATM. We want them to come visit our ATM. So yeah, out of those 285, we hope a lot of them are getting used. So.
And also, you mentioned something that struck me from a ITil V3 point of view. You spoke of, you know, spend patterns, all that. That's demand management. You know, that's knowing our customers, what do they need, when do they need it. Even, you know, if it was ice cream, what flavor do they need, right? And
Yes.
And when do they when does that happen? So the ATM and financial institutions, financial services industry, I think of as a leading indicator in our economy. Because it, like you mentioned, it talks about people spending, when they spend, how much, month over month, you know, how's that look? So how has COVID changed Cartronics? Has there been a change? Have you seen, hey, I think the economy's picking up because of spending, or how's it changed the way Cartronics, and especially your group? I don't want you to, you know, I feel like you have to speak for everyone, but, you know, has there been an impact?
From our group, we have the business requesting more services from, I have a very small group, and we actually manage an application called ServiceNow, which most of your folks out there will know the name of ServiceNow. We manage that in addition to providing guidance with processes and even governance in-house. And with our ServiceNow practice, we've had an increased ask from the business because they're starting to see that, hey, we can do more things now that we got a little bit more leeway here. So that's actually increased the amount of asks that our teams have as far as work coming in. So we feel like that's a good indicator for the organization overall that, hey, we're starting to see that there's things that we haven't been able to maybe necessarily do in the past, or we've done them in a particular way, and maybe that team has looked at it and they've decided to go lean with the process, or they're applying some of the Six Sigma functionality functions and being able to break that process down more. And so now they're coming back to us going, hey, we want to do these things to streamline. So, and we participate in a lot of those type sessions. We do them almost on a weekly basis where we look at those processes and we go, hey, yeah, we could streamline this. We could lean that process if we do this. Or, hey, we've got to make sure that we're still in regulatory compliance. That's always a big deal for any financial institution, is making sure that we're in regulatory compliance. And so being able to bring those factors to the table is very helpful. So.
Oh yeah, especially because it's the COVID, not everybody dwells on, I don't want to dwell on it, but it has thrown how we look at all right, I have this base statement, and it's a generalization, it's not 100%. I don't think we've created that many new problems. I think it's just magnified the problems we have. And so, like, if leadership, if you're in an organization that has bad leadership, COVID's just going to magnify it, you know, like,
I agree. I'll tell you, I haven't run this statement by anybody, but Cartronics has a tremendous executive leadership group. They have been tremendous through COVID, recognized very quickly, I think in probably the first part of February, that something was about to happen. And they immediately started mobilizing, and they have just been tremendous from our CEO, Ed West, on down. They really care about us as employees and the contractors that we have working for our organization, and they have responded tremendously. So I can honestly say I feel just extremely blessed to be at an organization that has just such a high level of executive leadership that really cares about its employees and its contractors.
That's awesome, because the converse is true as well, right? It has provided a great opportunity for outstanding leadership to be outstanding. You know, this is giving them the jumping off point to say, now look at what we can do, you know, and from business customers or consumers to however it goes. And so, yeah, I always love to hear this, because we hear so much about poor leadership all around. And so it's great to hear about awesome leadership. So last question, and this has been a very quick conversation. I've enjoyed this. It's gone by so quickly. So you have these processes, practices, if you will, within your ServiceNow tool set. If you had the resources, king for the day, be able to write the check, what would you invest in and what you're doing now because you think, this would be able to produce great outcomes because I understand my business problems and my customers, what they're wanting. If I had the resources, I would be able to do X. What would you do?
Gosh, in most every organization I've ever worked in, one of the first things I do is assess their ability to manage problems. If you can't manage the problems that are occurring in your organization, then that really is a leading indicator of either how well or how poorly the organization is being managed. So if I were able to go into any place, any organization in the world, and the first thing I always try to do is assess their problem management capabilities. Because you know, people, there's this thing of you know, mental fatigue that you see articles being written about today, where people are just, with the pandemic going on and all the stress of having to homeschool their children and then continue to maintain a full-time job or multiple jobs. Some people have to do multiple jobs. So with all of that, I think, as you alluded to, if you're not managing your problems progressively and actually very aggressively, then they will start mounting up, and before you know it, you could potentially lose good people because you're not dealing with the problems that are causing them to have that mental fatigue. So to me, problem management is one of the areas that I love. Problem management. It's an area that you can get some really good gains in, but it is a difficult area as well to work in. Incident management. You know, in my career, incident management is an area I can step into in a heartbeat and know exactly what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and how to drive through and get something that has failed back to a operational state. Problem management, though, does take it takes more finesse, if you will, and it takes a lot of good soft skills to go in and be able to say, okay, sorry, but you're going to need to go buy yourself a new air conditioning unit for this area and have it as a backup because you've had 10 failures and you can't afford to have another failure. So problem management tends to also include having to spend some money, which, you know, is always one of those fun areas that you have to dance around in some. But the return on the investment of actively correcting or finding a way to get past a problem has such a high return, but it's really difficult oftentimes for an organization to really address a problem. And of course, you put risk management on top of that and say, hey, what's the risk and what does it do to your organization, and that actually will help. So to me, problem management is always one of the first things I do. I always look to assess how are they handling problems. So that would be my one that, and it is one of the harder ones. I mean, change management or change control, as V4 calls it, change control, incident management, even availability and capacity management feed off of problem management often. So it is definitely what I would consider an advanced process. And it's one that I just love it. I think there's so much value to be gained within an organization with problem management. So that would be my one.
I think change and problem have the hardest roles on your people because
Yes.
they're dealing with other people when something maybe didn't go as it should. And Steve Heyman, who was on a few weeks ago he's problem management VP at Bank of America, and he talked about how some people, we blame Joe, and make up a name. There's all the Joes out there. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
But maybe it's not his fault because we asked him to work all night, and and something went south, the next day because we've had him working 18 hours straight, and so it looks at, and he talks about how many times it's not just one thing that failed; it's like the multiple, the complexity, and so I'm with you on problem management being difficult, but also having a lot of return opportunity because we think about it, its core is how do we stop incidents from happening in the future? How do we minimize their impact if we can't? And so that is dollars and cents of uptime. In most places that have really good problem management, just my soapbox, is that they have quantified how much an outage costs them. If you know how much an outage costs you, you're like, whatever we can do, and it's expensive. Let's just assume it's expensive. Now, you're going to say, how can I stop this? How can I make this pain not come back again? Is that your feel as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Preventing an incident or preventive maintenance is always less expensive than having to deal with it once it's broken and now you have no choice. So yes, to me, and I found when I first started doing the training in, chemical plants and pulp and paper facilities, they were huge on preventive maintenance because once something failed in their environment, it was massively expensive on the organization. So they did everything that they could to prevent a problem or an incident from occurring. And if an incident did occur, how many times did it occur, and pushing it immediately into problem management so that they could get resolution. So I learned in my very early years that problem management is one of the best return on investment areas that you can have. And yes, definitely, I feel like, your change control area and problem management are very difficult areas because it is like herding cats, from the old commercial of herding cats. Trying to get people to get on board and everybody go the same direction. So it takes a lot of influence to be in those areas as well. A lot of really good soft skills are needed. And it's really difficult for people to be in those positions at times because the feedback comes back and eventually they're going to get their feelings hurt. And then they have to decide, is this really worth me being in this position, or can I go find something else? And, that's easier, like, incident, not that incident management is easier, but it is easier from that standpoint. So because once an incident occurs and you're the driver of that incident to get resolution, you're in control, you're driving it, and you're going to get results. So definitely two different totally pictures there, but yeah.
And problems like, how do we stop this? How do we keep this in? And the one thing change and problem have at their core is those two groups take abuse, but those two groups, I know there are others, but need leadership support more than any other, because they're not going to pay dividends if you're going to make them less effective.
Right.
But anyway, Rhonda, it's been great talking to you. Appreciate the energy, the passion. Like, I feel like I have all the time, like raw ITil and IT service management, because we do feel like we offer something to the business. Like, we are providing better outcomes. We wouldn't be in this if we thought, oh, we're just checking a box. So any parting words before we let you go? But do know that we appreciate you being on here.
No, well, thank you for letting me do this. I've never done one of these before. I've got to speak at other events and things, but never done a podcast type session. So this is a first for me, but I love this. I love the interaction, and definitely the energy that you're bringing, and just the fact that this is going out, and because I've been watching the podcasts, I think they're great. So keep them up. Can't wait to see who else you get for the future. So
thank you. We're pretty excited for the next few, and we're thankful for you. And it's something that I hope grows some as it goes on.
Mm-hmm.
So
oh, absolutely.
Have a great one, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Let's see you, Jeffrey.
Bye. And we'll be right back with Jeffrey's closing thoughts. Hello, this is Jeffrey. I'm back with closing thoughts. We thank Rhonda for her time, her energy. We thank you for joining us. And I just have two closing points. One is, the more of these we do, the more of these conversations I have, the more I realize that every industry has different nuance, but the business problems to solve are the same. The business customers are looking for efficiency. They're looking for IT to serve their needs, whatever it is, the service levels to be identified and be met, and help these business outcomes. That's number one. So service management leadership can help you in your organization in that regard. But don't think that your organization and your industry is so much different than all the others. We have talked to a lot of people just in our few episodes, and you can tell that these wide range of organizations have very similar problems for it to be solved. That's number one. Number two is, no matter what tool set, what processes, how mature they are in your organization, other people are in the same boat as you are. So please do not get frustrated. Please do not get down because you wish you could do more. We're all in that same boat. We've been in there. We've been in that boat with you paddling because we felt like we were stranded on this island. Ever need somebody to talk to in this regard, you need somebody to bounce an idea off of, I'm here. Don't worry about cost or any of that stuff. You know how to reach me if you're watching this video. Please reach out. You are not alone. These service management principles, these service management conversations are very similar from organization to organization throughout different industries, tool sets, all that. So please reach out if there's something that I can do for you, even if it's just to listen and offer some quick advice. So I thank you for joining us on this podcast. We thank Rhonda, and we hope you have a great day.